How to cut people off without saying a single word in every room you have ever entered. There is a quiet, unwritten transaction taking place. It is not paid in currency or measured in contracts, but in something far more valuable: your emotional bandwidth. Most people spend their entire lives giving this away for free. They respond to every provocations, explain themselves to people who have already decided not to understand them, and offer their energy to those who only know how to consume it. But there is a rare, formidable archetype of individual who operates under a completely different law. They do not argue. They do not raise their voice. They do not issue grand ultimatums or dramatically delete numbers in a fit of rage. When a person crosses their boundary or demonstrates that they no longer deserve access, these individuals simply vanish from the equation. They practice the art of the ghost, cut a silent, absolute revocation of access that leaves the other person entirely stripped of power. To understand why this is so devastatingly effective, you must first understand the secret addiction of the manipulator. Human beings, especially those driven by covert narcissism or power games, do not feed on your love or your hatred. They feed on your reaction. Energy is energy to a predator. If they provoke you and you explode into anger, they have won. Because they proved they can control your internal state with a single sentence. If you plead with them, try to reason with them, or write long messages explaining how much they hurt you, you are handing them a detailed manual on how to control you further. You are validating their importance in your world. The moment you give a dramatic speech about leaving someone's life, you reveal your own conflict. You show them that cutting them off is a heavy, painful, and uncertain decision for you, which means they still hold psychological real estate in your mind. The Machiavellian sovereign operates on an entirely different plane of reality. They understand that the highest form of power is not aggressive confrontation. It is total, unbothered indifference. Indifference is not anger dressed up in a quiet mask. Anger is hot, loud, and demanding. Indifference is cold, vacant, and absolute. It is the realization that a person has become so insignificant to your future that wasting even 3 words on an explanation is an unacceptable loss of your time. When you decide to cut someone off without saying a single word, you break the fundamental script of human conflict. The other person prepares for the argument, the defense, the negotiations, or the emotional drama. Instead, they hit a concrete wall of pure silence. There is no door to knock on, no argument to win, and no emotion to exploit. They are left alone in an empty room with the echo of their own disrespect. This is the exact moment power shifts permanently back into your hands, and that is why you must state clearly in the comments, "I reclaim my focus and withdraw my energy." Consider what actually happens when you stop explaining yourself. Explanations are fundamentally an act of submission. When you explain why someone hurt you, you are subconsciously asking for their permission to feel aggrieved. You are handing them the jury duty over your own emotions, waiting for them to agree that they were wrong. But toxic people almost never admit wrongdoing. They reframe the narrative, make you feel irrational, and turn your attempt at closure into a fresh battleground. The silent cut bypasses this entire trap. You do not need their agreement to downgrade their security clearance in your life. You do not need them to admit they were unfair. You simply observe their behavior, make an internal audit, and adjust your behavior accordingly. If they text, The tone is polite, formal, and distant, like a stranger asking for directions. If they ask what changed, you offer no emotional meat to chew on. You do not say "you hurt me," you say nothing. Or you offer a vague, completely detached response that gives them zero leverage. This approach requires an immense degree of emotional discipline. The reason most people fail at cutting people off in silence is that they mistake quietness for weakness, or they feel an irresistible urge to have the last word. They want the satisfaction of telling the person off, but the need to have the last word is actually a desperate plea for validation. It is an admission that you still care what they think about you. True power is walking away while letting them keep whatever twisted version of the story they want to believe. Let them think you are bitter. Let them tell others you changed. Let them convince themselves of whatever narrative protects their fragile ego. A sovereign mind does not litigate its reputation with people it no longer respects. When you master the art of silent withdrawal, your presence in any social circle or relationship subtly transforms. People begin to sense an invisible perimeter around you. They realize that access to you is not a permanent right, but an ongoing privilege that can be quietly revoked at any moment, without warning or drama. This creates a profound psychological reverence. Human beings do not respect things that are cheap, overly accessible, or constantly begging to be heard. They respect boundaries that are enforced quietly and consistently. The most dangerous person in any room is never the one shouting commands or trying to intimidate everyone with aggressive body language. It is the person sitting in complete stillness, observing everything, and holding the absolute willingness to walk away forever without making a sound. At this deep stage of self-mastery, take a brief pause and affirm your commitment right now in the comments by writing, "My access is a privilege, not a right." Notice the profound difference between reactive isolation and strategic detachment. Reactive isolation happens when you get overwhelmed, run away in hurt, and sulk in the shadows, hoping someone notices your absence. Strategic detachment, however, is a calm, cold calculation. You are not running away from them. You are simply stepping into a higher trajectory where they cannot follow. You do not block them in a theatrical display of pain unless it is necessary for your safety. Often, leaving the channel open while remaining completely unbothered, unreachable, and unfazed sends a far more terrifying signal. It demonstrates that their presence or absence no longer alters your internal temperature by even a fraction of a degree. You can see their message, view their life moving on, and feel absolutely nothing. No urge to check in, no urge to stalk, no urge to fix what they broke. The psychological impact on the person who was silently cut off is slow, haunting, and cumulative. At first, they might feel a surge of arrogant satisfaction, assuming you are just playing a game or waiting for them to reach out. They expect the routine cycle, the cold shoulder, followed by the emotional breakdown, followed by the reconciliation. But as days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, the reality sets in. The silence doesn't break. The line remains dead. There is no anger for them to feed on. No resentment for them to flip back on you. The absence of your energy leaves a massive, echoing vacuum in their life. They begin to replay past interactions, searching for the exact moment they lost you. But because you gave no explosive exit speech, they have no clear target to attack. They are forced to sit with the haunting realization that they pushed you so far that you simply decided they were no longer worth the air it takes to speak. This brings us to the core law of ruthless self-mastery. Your energy is a finite, non-renewable resource. Every minute you spend trying to re-educate an adult who actively chooses to disrespect you is a minute stolen from your purpose, your wealth, your peace, and your real allies. The world is full of people who will gladly consume your life force if you allow them to set the terms of engagement. The Machiavellian sovereign recognizes that peace is not achieved by defeating every enemy in a duel. It is achieved by making yourself utterly unassailable. You construct a life so focused, so disciplined, and so emotionally detached from trivial noise that people who do not align with your standards naturally fall away like dead leaves from a tree. If you are ready to stop wasting your power on those who do not deserve it, confirm this shift in your mind and type in the comments, "I choose peace over proving my point." Moving through the world with this level of quiet sovereignty changes how you view every interaction. You stop viewing conflicts as urgent crises that require your immediate emotional investment. Instead, you view them as diagnostic tests. When someone crosses a line, lies, manipulates, or attempts to diminish you, do not view it as a tragedy. View it as valuable data. They have given you a clear, unambiguous report on their character. You do not need to argue with the data. You do not need to negotiate with reality. You simply update your internal permission list. You move them from the inner circle to the outer circle, or eliminate their entry point entirely. And you continue moving forward without missing a single beat. The art of cutting people off without saying a word is ultimately not about punishing others. It is about honoring yourself. It is the final realization that your peace of mind is sacred. And anyone who threatens that peace waives their right to sit at your table. You do not owe anyone an exit interview. You do not owe toxic dynamics a polite wrap-up session. You owe yourself a life free of unnecessary friction, petty battles, and exhausting emotional management. When you step into this truth, you stop fighting for respect, because your very aura demands it. You stop chasing people, because you realize your silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. As we bring this deep exploration of cold sovereignty to a close, anchor this mindset permanently by declaring in the comments below, "I walk in silence. I rule in strength." Take a deep breath and let this realization settle into your core. The next time someone tests your boundaries, tries to draw you into their chaotic storm, or expects you to chase them down for an explanation, do not react. Do not engage. Do not raise your voice. Simply close the door in your mind. Step back into your absolute center, and let your total silence do the rest.